This morning I did a cap activation. So like I guess it's like a recent thing. The people they use the Kundalini energy and they move it around.
Oh, okay.
And it's
I don't know about that.
it's a new modality. I've done give me a second here. 1 second.
Sure.
It's not my best day, you know? It's not my best day.
Oh, well, you want to reschedule and just chat a little?
Yeah, that'll be fine.
Yeah.
Uh,
Are you having a reaction to this thing you just did?
no, I'm having a reaction to a rabbi in my neighborhood.
Oh, okay.
He's um he's a rabbi who he's just so like old school. Like I said to him I didn't have a menorah. He's like, come right now. It's like Jesus, it's like come on, man. Just chill out a little bit. You don't have it's I already lit candles the day before. I just didn't have a menorah. I just lit a candle, that I had, a short Hanukkah candle. And it's just like halakhically I'm fine. I did the minimum I had to do. All right. I did the minimum I had to do, right?
I have a feeling that my friend Melinda must have an extra Finucchia lying around somewhere.
I got one from him, but the 7 minutes that I was with him it was just the most draining.
Ah, okay.
I'm on this like high space, like I'm super high. I'm like in a really good spot. And then like I talk to him and it's like boom. And you're like,
Well, maybe what there's to say about that is that's gonna happen. And we have the wherewithal and the ability to reconnect to ourselves. So, like, take a moment right now and do that.
I've been doing it all week. It's just hard. It's really hard.
Well,
There's,
sometimes it's harder than other
there's a
times.
blockage in my spine of like I can't connect everything, like whether you call it chakra, like, I just can't connect my head to my body. It just doesn't
Okay.
happen.
Well, I'm just going to talk a little bit. I mean, we won't take this as like a big talk, um, but I'm actually saying what I'm saying in part because it's true, but also because I think it could be helpful for you. So I'm just going to say a couple of things about Kundalini. So maybe another time we'll contextualize it and talk about like really what it is and, the nature of the universe and all of that. I mean, I could, wind that up and talk, but what I think is helpful to know. So you know about the chakras, they're major energy centers. Now there are many chakras all over the body. There are. People do like yoga 101 or Kundalini 101. They go, oh, well, there's only 7 chakras. Well, that's not true. There are many chakras. But but the ones we think of as the major chakras are on what in Sanskrit is called the Sushumna Nadi. Sushumna Nadi is some people call it the central channel and in English, and it corresponds to the physical spine. So like people say, well, the chakras are on your spine. Well, they're in your energy body. And they correspond to the physical spine. And so, there's 7 of these major centers, these chakras. So you'll understand in a minute why I'm sort of launching in about this, because I want to respond to what's going on with you, because let's see if we can move the energy. So, we live on the earth plane, and we also live on the ethereal plane that, you've experienced that. So we have these higher centers, which people think of as, the higher chakras or the chakras that sort of more correspond to our enlightenment, our enlightened state. So up here this is the crown chakra. In Sanskrit, we call it Sahasrara. So the idea is the Kundalini, once it's awakened, once this energy, this dormant energy is awakened, and the energy it's like our source. It emanates from pure consciousness. I mean, I'll talk more about this, maybe, probably another time, and maybe more elaborate. But anyway, so it's the energy, it's the dynamic energy of everything in the universe, including us. It's understood that it's divine. It's a divine energy, and that is present in us. Now, on one hand, you could say, well, yeah, it's here all the time anyway, right? So what's this whole thing about Kundalini awakening and Kundalini rising and all this? The understanding is that, and the word, by the way, means coil. So it's understood that this energy is like coiled up like a snake, and that it's the base of our spine. It's at what some people call the root chakra. So it's the lowest of the 7 chakras. And the lower chakras get a bad rap because people say, oh, they're the lower chakras. You know what would be the lower chakras? Well, we live on the earth plane. So I find that people who are in need of more grounding are in need of focusing more on the lower chakras. I'm not saying in comparison to the higher ones, but it's helpful to focus on where you're feeling it out of whack, out of balance. So sometimes I will lead in some of my classes or workshops, I'll lead a chakra journey. So like we started at the base of the spine, and then we move up. So there are these 7 chakras, right? So the first chakra, we'll call it, is at the root. It's at the base of your spine. And sometimes if people are having and it corresponds to the body. So sometimes if you're having lower back problems, that corresponds to the root chakra. Now, it's understood that the Kundalini, it's hard to talk about this without getting into some of the technical stuff, but what I would call the spiritual science of it. It's understood that the Kundalini that this energy needs to be awakened, and then it's going to go on this journey, moving all the way up. Now, there's a lot of, that alone we could talk about for a while, but there's a lot of misconceptions about it because some people are born with it awakened. Some people have these spiritual experiences and they're really young. For some people, it's awakened through spiritual practice, through mantras, through, there might be some practices or exercises that some of these Kundalini groups, Kundalini focus groups, practice and teach people. In my case, it was probably awakened through a mantra that I was taught, and that it was understood that it's awakened through the grace of great being, so that there are these enlightened beings that are hanging out, and one of their missions, one of their purposes, one of the reasons they took birth is to awaken and guide that energy and that journey in others. So there's all kinds of ways that it could be awakened and guided. One of the challenges is sometimes it doesn't seem like it's guided. It just seems like it's an electrical circuit, gone mad because of where we are, because of what's going on in our lives, because maybe we're connected, disconnected, all kinds of stuff is going on, or maybe because the practices that we're doing maybe need to be refined, or maybe we're not doing any practices. Sometimes people tell you they had these powerful Kundalini experiences, and they'll say, okay, that's great. Now what? How do you nurture that? So you're a regular meditator, you're a spiritual seeker. So sounds like you're going through a bit of a rocky time, maybe some days higher, some days lower. It's not unusual when you're experiencing that kind of awakening without being able to kind of sit with it. You know, when I had some of these profound experiences, I was in retreat, I was in ashrams, you know, and we did work and we did interact with people, but you know, it's different when you're living your life in the world, you know, and these two tracks are sort of, you know, unfolding at the same time. So I like to think of the journey of the Kundalini as an unfoldment. And one of the things that I learned over time, and some people may not know this or may not agree with it, but that it's not a direct journey. It's not like you're, you know, getting on a train to go to Philadelphia. And you get on the train and you're going to get to Philadelphia. Maybe, you know, you're going to stop along the way. Maybe you're going to have some delays, but in all likelihood, you're going to get to Philadelphia in some kind of direct fashion. Sometimes what happens with the Kundalini is it kind of goes up and down, and it's kind of doing like a roto-rooter. It's cleaning out these impurities from past lives or from this life. And, you know, then we could get into an elongated conversation about karma and all of that because it's all related. But to me, the most important element to me in all of this is awareness. So like to be aware of like what's going on and to notice, you know, so like one of my classes a couple of days ago, somebody said, well, what she often will do is she'll just lie down and do a body scan. And she finds that reconnection. Now, we weren't talking about it in the context of the chakras, but sometimes it's helpful to sit back or lie down and just kind of like move your awareness up from the base of your spine up through these centers. So there's one under the navel, there's one at the solar plexus, there's one in the heart. If we elaborate on this, I'll give you all the names and what they seem important to. And then there's the throat chakra, which is here, and the third eye or the Ajna chakra, and then there's the crown chakra, the 1,000-petal lotus. It's described as. What's important, I think, and what I find really striking, it kind of took me a long time to actually be aware of this. So you've got these 7 chakras, like so-called higher, so-called lower. What's in the middle?
The heart.
Your heart. So I was like, you know, it sounds like some of what's going on with you right now is you're getting sort of emotionally triggered or disrupted or elevated and shut down and all of that. So it seems to me like keep going back to the heart, you know? And sometimes it's almost like obvious. Like, I mean, you used to have headaches, you know? So if they're like over here, well, you know, you've got your third eye here. If you have laryngitis, maybe you will focus your awareness on this center. And they kind of radiate out to some of what else is going on in our bodies or in our emotions. So I find that all helpful information because you can draw on it when you're feeling thrown by something. Yeah. So sometimes people say, like, I don't feel like I'm in my body. Well, what is there to do? Ground. You know, get in touch with the lower part of your body. Put your feet on the ground. Feel your legs. Feel the root. Feel the base of your spine. Sometimes people say, like you just said, you know, like you feel like you're crashing. Well, can you like move your energy up? Can you move your attention up here? To sort of bring you out of that funk that feels like, you know, you've been shot down, you're kind of lying on the floor, metaphorically speaking, maybe literally. So I find this wisdom helpful to help us sort of rebalance and readjust in terms of what's going on. There's a lot more to say about all of this. And as we started with, different paths and different cultures and different teachers and different folks have different takes on these things, but the basic, spiritual science, so to speak, doesn't change. It's like, water is always wet, so this energy is always there. And sometimes you're aware of it, and sometimes you're not. Sometimes you're aware of it in the external world, when things seem to happen and fall into place magically. Like, how is that? Like, how is it that you are aware of someone and at that moment they reach out to you? Because there's this connectivity in the universe. We understand it. We know that. And there's all these elaborate, explanations for this, but in terms of the looking through the kind of spiritual lens, the metaphysical lens, you got the metaphysics and you got the metaphysical world, you got the physical world, and they coexist. And sometimes we are drawn more to sort of hang out in one than the other, but it seems to me that the goal of life is to find a way to integrate them within our own self, within our own lifetime. So if you're getting thrown by somebody, first of all, one of the first teachings I ever got was keep good company. So hang out with people that uplift you on one hand. And also to kind of develop a way of shifting out of those seemingly negative or negative feeling states. Like, how do we shift? And that's why we have mantras. That's why we have meditation practices. That's why we, in a way, why we're able to take the help of the breath. You can always come back to the breath. And that we learn to stop indulging those feelings. It's like anger will feed on itself. Depression will feed on itself. Anxiety will make itself more anxious. So how do we bounce out of that? And so we have all these things that we can do. And they're not just meditation. Now, sometimes when I feel like I'm taking on someone's energy that doesn't feel good, I'll just go like that. Like my hands are wet. I'm just shaking out, just like, goodbye, go away. So there's all kinds of things. But it starts with noticing, oh, I'm not where I want to be at this moment. How can I reconnect? And we're really good as a culture. We're really good at doing that with our external devices. People say, "Oh, I'm out of juice. I've got to plug in." Right. Well, what about you? Are you plugging into you? So not to dismiss or belittle or diminish any of the angst that you might be feeling or anybody might be feeling, because that's normal, because we're feeling beings. But we've been given this sacred way out, way through, really. And the more, it's like anything else in the nervous system, the more we do that, the more we shift out, the sooner we start to catch ourselves. Like we start, somebody asked me in my class the other day, I said, well, yeah, I'm really good at being good to other people. Like, I'm having a hard time with me. And I said, well, what you want to be doing is noticing sooner that you're not feeling the way you want to feel about yourself. And you're not treating yourself the way you want to treat yourself. Because when you're aware of that, then you can do something. You can stop. You can breathe. You could go, oh, I'm really pissed off, but I'm aware that I'm really pissed off. So what can I do? How do I come back to me? Because I'm still feeling shaken up by this outer experience or this interaction.
Right.
So you have the skill. First of all, I think it's innate, but also you have the skill. We have the skill because we practice. And there's this thing of, my favorite quote from Lao Tzu, to neither obsess about your circumstances nor forgo awareness of them. So we're not pretending that the hard stuff doesn't exist, but we're not hanging on to it, holding it tightly and attached to it in a way that disrupts us. So can you do both at the same time? This isn't pleasant. I wish, this experience didn't happen. I wouldn't have chosen it, but it's what I got. And how can I be? That's always the process. There you go.
Right.
It's like you did a full cycle in about a second. At
Right.
least that's what it looked like.
It goes back to non-attachment. Just let it happen and let it pass, and then go back to self.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's the way that I increasingly think about everything is from the pairs of opposites. So it's about attachment and aversion. So to not be attached to it, but also to not be averse toward it. To not try to make it go away. It's there, it'll go away.
Right. The funny part is the thing that pissed me off the most is that I'm not in that state that I was in right before I met with him, which was a really nice place to be. That's the part that pisses me off. Not what he did, but more so that I'm no longer in that like blissful, space. And like I was in a really good mood. And now that's the funny thing. So like states change, obviously. You have a good day, you have a bad day, things stress you out, there's all this stuff going on. But like the attachment to the idea that I can stay in a space forever is first of all naive, and second of all not truthful to myself, knowing that throughout life we've had good days, we've had bad days, and it's like even in the worst day you see something that you didn't see before, so like that's the gift, really, that there's an opportunity to say, oh, I should probably work on this a bit more, or how I interact with people, or so on and so forth. And it's
well, there is that, but I think there's also, as we're saying, that these experiences are going to happen, and so how do we move through them or move out of them? So part of what you're articulating, and I think this is universal, is, oh, I'm feeling great, and I'm ticked off because I'm not feeling in that state anymore. So now, not only are we being attached to that state of bliss or perfection or contentment, but we're averse, we're rejecting the state that we have right now.
Right.
It's like those two things go together. So okay, right now I'm in a kind of crummy mood, and I can stew in it. Sometimes we choose to do that. I'm a very talented stewer. And at some point then I go, oh, forget it. Why am I stewing? So I'm not in the blissful state, but I also don't have to be in this miserable state. I can find my way back to sin. I like it. And that's rhetorical, because we know how. There's many ways. So yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's like we were feeling great, and then something came into our field, and now we're angry that we lost that state. But the fundamental teaching to me is we lost our connection to it, but we never lose it. The state's always there. That state that you were experiencing earlier, it's still in you. It's there. So to be able to let go of being furious about losing your connection with it and knowing that it's still there and it will reemerge. Maybe it will reemerge just by reminding yourself that it's there. Or maybe there's something else to do, or maybe there's a way to be. So just as you can revisit the experience of anguish, you can revisit the experience of transcendence by remembering what that felt like. So it's a choice. It's like, where do you want to put your attention? You want to put it on the anguish, or do you want to put it on the glory, the transcendence, the bliss?
Right.
Because you can recall. I love that word. We recall, we remember, but we're also calling it back up. And maybe it's not going to be as profound as it was last time. Maybe it'll be somewhere in between, but okay. You're moving in the direction. So one of the things that comes up is our own existence.
I know from experience that if you lose a state, it's okay. And then it comes up differently later. Most of the time better than before. And it's just grander, it's stronger, it's faster, it's more whatever it is, and then all of a sudden it's different. It's just a different space that you're in now because you have more understanding and awareness than you had 10 minutes ago,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you get to be angry, you get to be upset, you even get to indulge it, but maybe that's not good for you.
Right.
Like, well, I'm still going to be mad about that. So, okay, you get to do that. That's so good for you. You get to make that choice. We all do. And, it's one of the reasons why it's good to have like-minded people around to remind you. You can move off that. To remind you that you can do that because you're not doing it because you're choosing to not do it.
Right.
And when people feel that and maybe they are, incapable of making those shifts, then it's time to intensify your practice.
Yeah. I've been doing this new meditation that gets me really, really deep. like really, it's the same. It's all the same stuff, but it just adds certain layers to it that just allows you to you can really. There's this. It's very funny. There's this section of it where it tells you, you relax your jaw, then relax your lips, then relax your eyes, and then your eyelids. And there's something else afterwards, and I never remember what it is because I'm always out. And it's very because then you extend this to the rest of your body, but I'm already gone by the time we get to that space, and it's rather amusing to say the least, you know.
Yeah, I've had that experience so many times. I was for a time when we were, I guess when we were living in India, one of the, everyone did service, and one of the things that I was asked to do it because I had the skill was to work on some of the books about meditation. And there was this very profound spiritual autobiography that I wasn't editing, but I was asked to sort of, chime in about a couple of pages of this text to see if I thought it worked. And I'd read a sentence and I'd go into meditation. And so I can't read the next sentence because I don't remember what the first sentence said. So, I'll go back to the beginning and I'd go back into meditations. And sometimes, like after really hanging in there, I could read a few sentences at a time without going into meditation, and then even without having to go back to the beginning. But it was effort.
What was the book?
It's called Play of Consciousness.
Wow.
It's a spiritual autobiography of Swami Muktananda, who's my first meditation teacher. And I don't remember what I had to say about any of it, if I had anything to say about it at all, but I do remember that it was like the state was just so accessible from the energy and the language, even though it translated and all that, but it was the intention to offer this, to offer people the state. And so I would get the state. And so it was a little hard to demonstrate. But then you stay with it. But yeah, so that's cool. And maybe one day you will get to a place where you kind of go, you get up here and then you go, oh, you'll find out what the next place on the journey is, or maybe you will never get there, but that doesn't matter because you have the experience of it. You're getting the state. Yeah, that's cool. That sounds good.
Yeah, no, it's going. I mean, I'm doing a lot more now, and thank God for the holidays because you get more free time to, make space for me to read. And I started reading Rumi.
Rumi's great.
He's amazing. Somebody mentioned one poem to me and I forgot which poem it was, so I just started reading all of it, hoping that one pop up.
That's great.
I can't remember the name of the poem.
Really?
Yeah.
There's I'm trying to remember that there's a quote that I often go back to. I can't remember if he says the light is shining in your heart or the sun is shining in your heart. I'll find it. There's a wonderful book by a writer and poet named Jonathan Starr. Just star, like a star. It's called Two Suns Rising, and it's a collection of spiritual wisdom from different traditions. It's not a huge book. I use it a lot in my classes, and there's some Buddhism, there's some yoga, there's some Christian mystics, there's I can't remember if there's any Kabbalah on there, but yeah, it's good to read this stuff. I also, Danny Matt's book, The Essential Kabbalah. Like I'll just like open the book.
I just got it in the mail, so I'm gonna start looking at it.
Oh, great. I love it. Yeah, I love it. Um, and sometimes, for teaching purposes, something is more accessible than something else. And then there's, do you ever read Lao Tzu?
No, I don't know allowed to.
Oh my gosh. Lao Tzu. I went to my library, but I couldn't find Jonathan Starr, but I did find, so um, this is a great book from Lao Tzu. It's called The Hua Hu Jing, Huahuching, The Unknown Teachings of Lao Tzu. They're great. And this is the one that everybody knows. People talk about the Tao Te Ching.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah, it's great. They're great. I mean, they're great. Let me find some. That's too long. All right. Anyway, get one of those or both of them. Yeah, they're really good. Okay, this one I used in a seminar that I led for about 100 healthcare practitioners at a conference. Why scurry about looking for the truth? It vibrates in everything and every not thing, right off the tip of your nose. Can you be still and see it in the mountain, the pine tree, yourself? Remain quiet. Discover the harmony in your own being. Embrace it. If you can do this, you will gain everything. And that's an excerpt that's long, but I love him. I just teach him all the time. And he's ancient, and it's everything we need. So, yeah, I'm glad you're reading Rumi. Rumi's great. They're all great. And there are a few people, around that I think are at that level. I think Pema Chodron, who's she's a Tibetan Buddhist nun. She's a North American person, but and she's I think in her 80s now. Very wise. Thich Nhat Hanh left his body not long ago. They're probably my two favorites of people who, I coexisted with in terms of this lifetime. I'm sure there are others, but and then Sally Kempton, who comes out of the same yoga tradition that I come out of. Sally's a great teacher. She has a book called The Heart of Meditation. It's a great book.
Yeah, that's the one I started reading.
Yeah, she's great. And my friend Matthew and some other friends of mine are encouraging me to get some of this teaching out there, bigger in the world. So let's see what 2023 is going to bring.
Listen, I don't want to put pressure on you. But I have the first draft of a book finished that I wrote about meditation and business and how they coincide. And I talk about 4 pages about meditation and the benefits of which, and then I launch them into a meditation. But just as I think it's time is what at least a series of essays. It doesn't have to be strung together.
Yeah. Well, I've got all these pieces because I write them for my class. I mean, I just I've come to the point where I agree. Like, I'm on board. I just have to figure out the earth plane stuff. It's like, probably, hang out with you is helpful, even though sometimes it's hard for us to schedule, because, to create some accountability in the process would be good for me. And the other thing is, it's been made pretty clear to me by a lot of people in my life and the universe that this coming year is going to be the year of the podcast. It's like, there's no reason to not do it. I mean, really, I just need to set aside, I'm one of those people that's like up here. So I just need to set aside some like earth time to work on it. And there are people who are like very good at it, like my friend David Schreier-Kahn, I'm sure you know, who offered advice. So as soon as the vibration changes on January 1st, that's 1 second after midnight, and we're in a new vibrational frequency in a new year. I think
can I give you a counter argument to that?
Sure.
The Rebbe said anything that's important you do immediately. The new year started back in October, if you really want to think about it.
Okay.
This Gregorian calendar is just old, and in fact, it's not even so accurate, because the Julian calendar, which was a little bit more complicated, was around for at least until the 1400s or so. So this modernized calendar is just for the birds, really. And if you want to use the Aztec calendar, we're light years behind where we should be right now. So the point is,
but these frequencies do change because it's cultural. I mean, they do change, But yeah, could I start it this week? Maybe.
I wouldn't say start this week, but I would really like it if you, from a personal standpoint, and also slightly if you could write, because what's important about writing, which I find fascinating, is that there is what you could say verbally, and there's what's the embodiment of verbal speech, and then there's what's written. And if you're trying to explain a story, right, you can't. There's the story, and there's everything that went into that story, right? And that part of the story is more important, and people wouldn't be able to listen to that, right? And you hear it sometimes. A good example is like when they're making Hollywood films, right? So Hollywood films, you then get the actors on stage afterwards and they talk about the details, but there's more that goes into it, because if you talk to the director and he goes, well, I just didn't like that blue shirt,
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden that's iconic. And then it's whatever, you pick a red shirt instead, let's say, right?
I think in this state of our culture, probably both are necessary. I think what I'm getting though out of this conversation is I have a lot of the writing, and instead of, because I've written a couple of books, instead of sort of organizing them into chapters and figuring out what the lay of the land is of the book, that I could polish one chapter or one section at a time. And then, at the very least, have my readers read it and give me feedback, and you could be one of those people.
I think that would be an ideal situation right now. Just and honestly, typos are fine. I mean, just get it out there, and then you fix it.
Typos are not fine when you're a professional writer, but I'll get it out there. No, it's more about thinking like structurally, like, okay, so this goes with this and that goes with that, and that will, this will be ready later. But what I could actually do is just start, I don't want to say knocking them out, but for every class that I teach, I have some kind of extended outline. I try to keep it to one page so that I'm not rustling papers. But, so like I do these 1 hour classes for JCC, and I've got dozens of these, maybe even hundreds, but certainly dozens um, of them. So like I'll have, and they're all different themes. Now, with the JCC, some of them are more, sort of Judaically tilted. And Sheila and I are planning to gather all those together in a book of Jewish meditations through the year. And some of those could be included in this as well. But some of them are like, like there's one on the inner light. There are probably 5 on the inner light. I have multiple ones on the inner light. And then I have these quotes from people like Rumi and Hasidic masters and stories and practices. So if I just take each of those themes and just, extend it out and give enough background, give enough context, I don't know how long they would be, but I could just pick one and start doing it because there's so many. Probably I'd start with the inner light because that's so much material. There's one on sacred space. There's multiple ones on time, So because I have this past life in this life as an editor, I think kind of like, well, what's the arc? Where does this go? But I could just finish writing them because they're all sort of partially written. And then when I teach, I don't read them. I mean, there are people that write these Dharma talks. I have a friend, close friend, who was, all right.
I'm here.
Yeah. I have a good friend who was a professional writer and a long time practitioner in a Buddhist path and, did a training so he could start teaching meditation. And I said, well, maybe you want to just start doing a regular group. And he said, well, don't you have to write a talk each time? And I said, no. I give a talk, but I don't write a talk. So what I could actually do is take those talks that I'm giving and I could write them up. I could fill them into what I say when I give them because, like this, for each one, I have a lead into meditation from somebody and I have a blessing practice and I have, some context like this one that's right in front of me that I gave a few days ago. I was on a hidden aspect of Hanukkah, of creating a space for the Mishkan, for the Shekhinah, creating a space for the divine presence to dwell among us. And there's a whole thing about that there's a legend that says, they did all the work and they were ready to roll, like at this time of the year, like during what we now, it was before Hanukkah, but what we now consider to be Hanukkah, but they were told, they got a divine instruction that they had to wait until the spring. So what's that about? So I did a whole class on that, on patience, on, divine time, on how do you welcome in the divine presence in our space yet? So that was like one class, and I just talk. So it's to take that talking, not necessarily that one, but I'm saying there's probably a couple hundred of them. So and I have to do all 100 of them for, one book, but, so I could start doing that and I could become accountable to you to, starting small. I could say I could write one a month, but maybe I could, once I finish this play, which hopefully will be soon, maybe I could write 2 a month. you know, and I'd show it to you. I'd show it to Sheila. I'll have a couple other people that could read it, and then we'll have a walk.
There you go.
I'll send it to Monique, of course. Yeah, well, but we're also going to start. We're going to relaunch some occasional meditation groups online through the center in Connecticut. So I'll let you know when that happens. All right, so we came to that. So how about see, I work much better when there's somebody waiting for something. I could always, I could always meet deadlines if I had to get something out, but that I don't have that much structure right now. So let's create some structure.
So this is great.
Today,
So
today is the 22nd.
Yep.
Because it's my grandson's birthday, so I won't forget that day. Yeah, Mika is 9 today. All right, so what if we say, because the 22nd of January is a Sunday, what if we say they'll have this to you no later than the 23rd of January? How's that?
Perfect.
And if it goes faster, it goes faster. So,
I'm all about long deadlines, by the way.
okay. Well, so long as there are deadlines. Because I keep like moving the goalposts on some of my other writing projects because, yeah, I'm working. So if somebody needs a session or, I may not write that day.
So I'm going to teach you something that you need to learn how to do, which is called time blocking, right?
Yeah, I've heard about that. I've heard about time blocking. I've heard about chunking.
No. This is the simplest way. So basically, you need to make a commitment to yourself for whatever amount of time that you're going to do. Maybe it's a Sunday from 12 to 1:30, right? That time, no matter what happens, unless there's a fire or an emergency, you stick to that time to yourself.
Okay.
So if you make and listen, you can move things around, that's fine. But as long as you stick to the thing, like the joke is, I need to do my laundry. I need to do my laundry. I need to do my laundry. You haven't done your laundry. So what are you going to do? You're going to wear dirty clothes. So you can take the hour to go do your laundry, right?
Right.
So you have to do your laundry. It's just part of it. The part of it is that you commit to an hour and you do that hour and then you just do it.
Okay. I can do that. I do my laundry.
You do your laundry. It's the same thing as doing your laundry. And if anything comes up in that time period, now obviously schedule it so you know that you have that time, right? Because the longevity of it is that you'll get your information out there because somebody might need an appointment. But if it comes that day, like I don't like personally as a real estate broker, if somebody calls me 2 hours and says, I need to see this right now, I go, you need to wait till tomorrow. Right? Like, because I know you're not serious. Right. And even though here in the situation, they're paying for the service, you're already committed to yourself.
Yeah. Well, occasionally, because I work mostly in healthcare, occasionally it's real that somebody will say, I really need to talk to you today. Usually people will say, can you find time for me this week?
Yes. So know the difference between emergency and, somebody being like, hey, just want to know if you're available later today,
Yeah. Yeah. And then there are people that I see every week or every other week.
Right.
And that's easy, of course, to plan around. Yeah, I can do that. Because then you find, you find the times that are most productive. I mean, I know writers that only write in the morning. I know writers that only write at night. I don't have that. Like I can write pretty much any time as long as I'm awake. I'm really awake. So okay, so I'll start doing that. But I think like to pick one thing to fashion into, maybe it'll be a chapter, maybe it'll be part of a chapter, maybe it'll be a section. I don't know. Let's see how it
goes. You get it down. You can look at it again. You can add to it. And that's the important part, And even if nothing comes from it sitting for an hour, you gave that yourself that hour. If you have writer's block, that 1 hour that you decided that you have, that's okay. You can't do anything else in that hour except.
I don't believe in writer's block.
Okay, good.
No, I don't. I don't get writer's block. I really don't. I don't get that. And I don't get stage fright, like when I have to give a talk. Like, I just don't get that. Some of it I just think is practice, and some of it I just think is personality. I just don't, I get distracted, but I don't get like, I have nothing to say about this, I mean, and now I'm not there anymore.
Right. I mean,
and also for me, a lot of it had to do with working really hard on my perfectionism. I'm just saying, well, it's good enough to show it's something. It may not be good enough to, to put on the wall at the Jewish Museum or something. Anyway, so this is good. So we're going to move forward. You and other people have persuaded me, and I'm no longer being overly humble or overly puffed up about it. It's like there are things that I have to say about this.
You have to say it. I'm going to say this to you again. You have to say it. You know why? Because nobody has done 50 years of meditation like you have. There are some that are like you, right? They're not many.
I think that's true.
Are not many. And to do meditation for 50 years at all. No, and I'm not talking about monks here. I'm talking about
people who live in the world.
Live in the world. It's very rare. And especially from the time that you started doing meditation, you could find some kid who's 22 now doing meditation, or maybe their parents started them out when they were 6, but that's different than somebody who came into the world when it wasn't cool yet to do meditation.
It's true.
And your modality of how you come at it is very unique because you've studied a lot of ancients and you've been able to put them all together into your own little thing. So like you, and not to command, but you must write this, right?
I've come around to that.
Okay, yeah. Good. And we have a deadline. We have a deadline because I think because, and I'll tell you why. I told you about that woman who saw our podcast that we did.
Mm-hmm.
Did I tell you about her?
No.
So there's this woman in my neighborhood.
Wait, what? Something we did?
Yes.
Oh.
So during the pandemic, we did maybe 4 or 5 different podcasts, right? When we were locked in.
Yeah, I didn't even know where they are. But
they're online. I'll send you the link. I'm not changing anything, so there's no changing. Though I'm the final state of how it ends up. Okay. So basically, I bumped into her at her bar, and I was really happy. And she goes, "Why are you so happy?" And I said, "Well, I meditate daily, and this is it's kind of fun times. I get to meditate for 2 hours a day. I get to read spiritual texts and stuff like that." And she goes, "Really?" And I'm like, and I sent her 3 of the podcasts that we had done at that time. And then she came back to me, and I see her in the streets, and she's changed. She's calmer. You see it in her face. And I said, and then I say, "Hey, by the way, how you been? And you've changed." And she said, "Yeah, I've been writing and meditating all the time, and blah, blah, blah." I'm like, "That's amazing. What else is new?" Right? And she tells me what's up in her life. And I go, "What's your number? There's events I go to, and I'd like to invite you to them." And she goes, "Oh, here's my number." And I had a number in my phone. And she had the podcast. I'm like, "Do you remember we spoke about a year and a half ago?" She goes, "Yeah, that's when everything started changing."
That's great.
That's great, right?
Yeah.
And that's just one person. I mean, it's just about spreading the word really at the end of the day. But it's like, how do you spread the word? You make content.
Oh, it's true.
Not do anybody any good if you leave without sharing your wisdom, Sheldon.
Thank you. I'm not going anywhere.
I understand that. Still, you want to bask in your own glory for a little bit. The ego is there still.
Thank you. And it's only 46 years.
That's 50 to me. I'll tell you something. I I once
I mean,
had a
that wasn't jest, but
right. I had a mentor once who there was a company that sold for $52 million. And then his company that he was working for, he was director of sales, sold for 48 million. I go, it's the same number. He goes, nah, they were worth more. And I go, it's the same number.
Yeah.
Standard deviation wise, it's the same number.
It is. Close enough.
It's close enough. And God willing, I may have a stream, you'll have another, 30, 40 years coming your way. So,
Well, we'll see. But, I mean, it was 28 years old last year. Well, next year, 75.
Amazing. You don't look a day over 50.
Thank you. Yeah. I told Sheila turned 7 years old. I said, you don't look a day over 16. She doesn't at all like any of those years, as you know. But anyway, so this was fun. I hope you're feeling better.
This was really great, actually. I needed to just chat with somebody about normal shit,
Yeah.
which to me is meditation. So,
Well, now that this is normal, this is good. Okay, right away. Thank you.
I'll talk to
you. Thank you for corralling me to move forward.
This is actually one of my very good skill sets, but I think it's the people who've listened to the podcast all find it profound, and that's part of the reason I want to tape this, because even like I've watched Ram Dass a lot, and like there's stuff you can read which is very important. There's also the embodiment of what it is that you're reading, and you have to get both. And it doesn't always have to be in a studio perfect, but it has to just show. Because I'm meeting later today, Sitara's in town. She's the one who I'm doing meditation with in Miami.
Mm-hmm.
Like you sense she is present, right? She is aware. She understands self, and there is a transmutation of information that comes from the feel, and you can read it. That you shared with me about that reading of that book. What was the name of it again? Anyway, but there's
from what too?
No, the other one, the gentleman, the one you were talking about, the
Your Sun's Rising.
Yes, that's it. And so like that's the like you can read it, but you can also sense it. And what we talked about a while ago was that somebody who meditates, their heart pace is different, and you're around somebody who meditates, everybody starts hitting that same beat, So you're around somebody and who has that energetic feel, and they start understanding what that experience is, right? And that's the hard part. And that's what we talked about in the past. We talked about the experience is what matters. So if you don't know what it is and you then have it, you go, wow, that's different, right? But then if you're around it and it becomes normalized, then you go, oh, that's how I'm supposed to be, and it becomes comfortable. So like you choose to go that direction because that feels softer, it feels lighter, it feels more comfortable, it feels easier on the spine, on the soul, on the head. And you realize that the space, I like to think of as like, there's a saying by Benny Goodman, which is that, which is jazz is actually framing the silence. The music is framing the silence, right? Which is a beautiful statement because he was a genius, a crazy man, but a genius as a musician. But if you take that concept and you're now framing the silence rather than making noise to fill the silence, now all of a sudden you get these spaces of God. Really, that's what you're doing. This still small voice shows up.
Yes, my understanding and experience is that it feels comfortable and familiar because it's our natural state. And the more we get to hang out there, the more we know that. The more we feel that. The more we want that.
But for somebody who, like this, our friend, the woman from the bar, she didn't remember it until she saw it again, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost becomes effortless to be in that state, because you go, wow, look at what I am when I am here, which is coming from the heart, right? Which is love, which is peace, which is helping others. And it's a beautiful, it's a really an incredible space to be in, because we can get back there, but we have to do the writing, we have to do the work, we have to, and there's so much. I get like 1,000 emails of spam every single day, and it's easy to get distracted by what's not important. So you have to focus on what is important. And as you noticed from this morning, like my head was nowhere. I couldn't concentrate on a very important conversation about Kundalini, So it's the space of getting back there. So I think it's important to have both, because you can read it and people aren't reading as much as they used to.
Right.
You see it, and the seeing of it is like, you start understanding, and that feels good, and people like what feels good. So, that's why people drink coffee and all other fun stuff, right? Buy clothes, right?
Yeah.
So it feels.
Well, I'm glad you came back to yourself.
Yeah, I feel a whole lot better. I got to deal with some fires now, because people are texting me like crazy, which is fantastic, because I'm just going to tell them to, Jesus.
Sure.
This one woman did a white glove test on one of the counters, and it wasn't perfect enough. So she needs a cleaner ASAP.
Okay. better you than I in that world.
Yeah.
So we'll see you soon, and we'll be on our way with this project.
Yeah, I'll see you Thursday. And let me know if you need any motivation while you're writing. I'll ask you a bunch of questions, and you'll just, I could get the scramble the jar a little bit,
Okay, sounds good.
I've been doing that a lot with people. I just ask them a few questions, like, oh my God.
Yeah, you're good at that.
And then they write something. But what I would do just to start, if you do have a moment of like, write one line and just expand.
Well, as I said, I have all these versions, and a lot of it comes out of my own contemplation of asking these questions. So what is the inner way? And then I'm off and running. Yeah.
There you go.
So have a good trip.
Thank you.
Yeah, light them up.
They're all going to fall asleep. It's going to be great. I'm so excited too. Like 150 people, they're all just going to go on. It's going to be great.
It's pretty exciting when that happens.
Yeah. I keep doing it with my buddy. I keep practicing on different people, and they're all down. Wow. I'm like, all right, we're good to go.
That's fun. All right, take good care.
All right, I'll talk to you later. See you next week. Happy Hanukkah.
You're lit up inside. Don't worry about the candles.
Yeah, exactly. I lit one candle. I got it. Luckily, I'm fine. I did the minimum, the bare minimum. All right.
All right. Take good care.
All right. Bye. See you, Sheldon.